A bonker new study claims alien DNA has been found inside humans. I didn't believe it myself until I saw this photo.
It sounds like an old science fiction movie, but a study out of Harvard finds that aliens might be living among us.
All right, moving on. Break out the theremin, because this next story is just begging for a spooky sci-fi background. After 30 years at the helm of the Israeli space security program, and after receiving 3 Israeli security awards, retired Israeli general and respected professor Chaim Eshed is now unveiling that yes, there are aliens among us, yes, Israel has made contact with them, and no, humanity is not ready for them.
Well, some of them are written by prophets, but I mean, Enoch is apparently supposed to predate even the time of Genesis and talk.
The nuttiest one is Ezekiel.
I'm telling you, Enoch is even crazier than Ezekiel.
Like, explain the nuttiness of the Book of Enoch to people.
Well, it's okay. So if you read it, it talks about the fall of angels, thus creating really the precursor of civilization that led to the first flood. I think that when you even go into potentially the technology that was given to mankind by these angels, it talks about the hidden beliefs and theories in astronomy, etc., metalworkings, all of it. But it really does explain, you were talking about earlier how you have a lot of these religions around the world that kind of say the same thing. This is kind of the OG text that leads to those stories that we're hearing from many religions around the world, to talk about angels mixing with mankind and then seeding a super essentially race of humans that essentially were responsible for basically damning mankind to the flood. I mean, you hear about stuff in Greek and Roman mythology, people who had these super crazy powers, and you talk about it out loud and it sounds crazy, but that's what the book says. And then the fact that it was taken out and then it's poo-pooed, yet you have one of the oldest religions in the world via the Ethiopians that actually still have it. You have, the Catholic Church that has books that are missing out of the King James Version. I'm just saying that, when you read it, you should read it and decide for yourself. Don't listen to what I'm saying, don't listen to what you're saying, but truly give it a chance and see what you have to say. And then, you're going back to this whole concept of if you have this information pertaining to UAPs, whatever they might be, the origins. I mean, if you have a understanding of what Enoch was talking about, kind of makes sense.
The really old stuff is very strange.
I'm telling you, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, I actually had a staffer that went to Ethiopia. She was on a church trip, and she actually brought me back a copy, and she's like, you can translate it via Google Translation, so kudos to modern day technology. So I have it in my office, and actually when I did my swearing in, on the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible.
Wow.
It's cool. It's direct translation.
That's kind of crazy. This is nuts.
I think we're probably going to be responsible for the Book of Enoch sales probably increasing on Amazon.
Well, I'm going to buy it. I need to read it now.
You'll trip out if you read Enoch and then follow about the fall of mankind and the angels with, and this is Christian theology, right? So angels came down, rebelled against God, interbred with humankind. That would be, I think, a good starting point for what potentially the Anunnaki were.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
I've been into the Book of Enoch over the last couple of months.
Yeah, I was wanting to pull that up. I was wanting to talk about that.
So Rep Lima came in here and she was explaining to me the Book of Enoch, and I never really got into it. She's like, it could have been included in the Bible, and it was a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but
the first half was, right?
The Book of Enoch is in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
The whole book?
Yeah, and at least part. It's the problem with the Book of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Rather, it's a lot of it is deteriorated and it's missing chunks and stuff. But
yeah.
The Book of Isaiah is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is identical word for word. Wes Huff was explaining that to a version of it that was 1,000 years older, which was the most recent version before they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 1940s, which is wild.
That is wild. That's the book that God predicts his own coming to earth and his own death and all that.
Well, the Book of Enoch is the one that predicts that this is what talks about the Watchers in the sky, and that these gods mate with humans and created the Nephilim.
Yep.
That is bizarre.
Well-
I've listened to it twice now, and I keep going back over it and just rewinding and going, what are they saying? Like, what were they trying to describe? Because this sounds completely insane.
When you get into like because isn't there like Egyptian stuff where there's like men coming down from space and like
Stargates.
Is that-
There's all sorts of weird shit.
that to me is just like fallen angels. You know, it's all kind of lining up in some kind of way or another. These whatever rebelled against God and came down here, men from the sky came down here and were pretty much posing as gods and demanding people worship them. And isn't Enoch where they teach them about money and teach them about
Sorcery.
sorcery? And
Yeah, sorcery and agriculture and metallurgy. There's all sorts of like weird. They talk about incantations, and then like how to get out of incantations if one gets put on you. It's like,
And you got to think this is pre-Jesus, and
Yeah.
so God is separated from man. So we're just walking around as people, like not knowing what's going on. And these things come down, and they're
Right.
boring giants and stuff. It's like, you know, I'd probably think it's a god too, for God's sakes, you know, because there wasn't. What was the Jews even a thing when the Book of Enoch was written?
sure, yeah. They were
God's chosen people.
the people that argued over whether or not the Book of Enoch should be included in the canon were rabbis.
Yeah.
It's all so confusing because
Is there any explanation of why it would be left out?
well they felt
explain
like
that?
it didn't jive with the Torah. I think that's the reason why it was left out.
Well, I mean, when I say that, like at one point, the Jews were God's chosen people. Is like they knew the God, the one, the I am, the one true God, but the rest of the world didn't really know what was going on, and so they were worshiping other gods, and so, like, aside from the Jews, the rest of humanity seeing these things walking around, it's like I'm sure they would think that's a god. You know, I'm sure they would worship that. What else do they have to believe?
Also, before you start doubting his words, the 87-year-old Eshed was clear in his recent interview with Yediot Ahronot News that he's not talking about immigration, but rather about a galactic federation complete with an underground base on Mars, where there are American and alien representatives apparently present. He also explains that President Trump both knows about them and was on the verge of disclosing their existence, only to be persuaded not to by the Federation, in order to avoid mass hysteria and panic here on Earth. Apparently, humanity just still has a long way to grow before we can understand the gravity of their presence. The final question, however, is what do they want? But perhaps thankfully for us, Eshed says that it's essentially just to research and understand the fabric of the universe.
Maybe the movie was ahead of its time because a new study says that this could be true. You're not making this up. A study has been conducted by researchers at the Harvard University, and they say aliens may be walking among humans as humans. Researchers have three hypotheses. First, aliens have come from a different time period or planet. Second, they have evolved on Earth but separately from humans. And third, they come from an ancient civilization that was not completely destroyed. The study also says that aliens possibly function out of a secret location. They could be living underground or in multiple regions on Earth that Gen Z would probably call sus, meaning suspicious.
Harvard University's Human Flourishing program speculates UFOs may be spaceships visiting alien friends planted on Earth, planted right here on Earth, that is. Those aliens then are disguised as humans trying to fit in. Study examines 4 different alien theories, okay, including technologically advanced ancient human civilization, plus ETs from the future. The study says aliens could either live among us, underground, or inside the moon.
Inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with that.
Wow.
And the video was interesting, though. They were
Yes.
just at the beach, all those aliens.
You just saw the beach.
They're living
among us. Yep, they are. And I want to say a happy Alien Dad's Day, because I'm sure there's like dads, right, that are aliens that are out there.
Why not?
Sure.
But the goal here is not to unsettle scientists. It is to ask questions, because aliens are having a moment. Over the past few years, pilots say they have seen extraterrestrial beings. The Pentagon has a new office to look into sightings. Governments have held hearings. NASA has gotten involved, and UFOs have been rebranded. They're no longer called unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. They are now unidentified anomalous phenomena. So far, so complicated. But the thing is, despite the shebang, we still don't know enough about aliens. So the study means to take the discussion forward. It wants to ask questions about unidentified observations made around the world every year.